like herbally teas rather than normal teas. They're all the rage now.
It's not unpleasant.
It's not great though, is it? It's not tea. It's not tea. Right, I'm going to play some music.
Do it.
Then we're waiting for you to stop. I'm going to press record on the podcast. Then we're going to start again. Yeah, massive error here. When you start, it stops and you've got to go through the minute.
It's rubbish, that.
It is. It's a massive oversight.
That is really rubbish, actually.
Yeah, the worst things.
I don't believe that's how it is.
No, it genuinely is.
You must have a stop.
If I press that again, it starts again. I don't want to press it again. I'm just going to wait. I can play that out.
But then you can't stop it.
And you can't start it again till it
Exactly.
stops.
Right, let's press play.
Record.
Recording.
Okay. Hello, Egg Chasers, and welcome to the Egg Chasers Rugby Podcast, the podcast about rugby that doesn't take itself or the game too seriously. And here to talk about Six Nations, and what a weekend. We're here in the Rugby Dungeon with JB right there.
Hello, Timothy.
With Phil right there.
Hello, Tim.
I'm Tim, and you can find us at Rugby Podcast on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. Funnily enough, the last few weekends we've been attempting to be streaming on YouTube. I understand today, miraculously, all of the ducks are in a line, and you've managed to get it all working this time, JB.
It's all about the Wi-Fi connection, so I'm sure it will let us down at some point. But as things stand, we're okay.
So it's nothing to do with your willpower this week, particularly, to get it working.
Yes, I mean, no, there's nothing to do with that.
I mean, there's really only one big and main talking point today, so let's start with it.
Friday night.
Wales, England, and a fantastic performance by England's women, 51-12.
Yeah, well,
the big
well
win.
said.
So yeah, I mean, if we can knock off an hour on that game.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
I would like to talk at length about each one of Sarah Burns' tries.
Yeah, well, hang on a minute. That isn't the real big game. I thought you were going to go somewhere else, Tim. The real big game was on Friday night, where, in the words of most ageing rock groups, we got the band back together. And we played
did.
veterans rugby. There yet.
You're about a month off being a veteran, aren't you?
Is there an official age for veterans?
I think 35 and over, isn't it?
Oh my word!
Well, I'm still playing regularly, so
Comfortably a veteran,
Yeah.
unfortunately. We'll talk about that in a little bit for sure. But come on, let's start in the Principality Stadium on Saturday afternoon. Firstly, how amazing is it that rugby can take you through that whirlwind of emotions?
oh my word.
Isn't it incredible?
Is when Tom Curry scored, and some of the hits that Tom Curry put in, the lowest lows as that second half as an Englishman, watching that dreadful second half performance, and you just felt it was ebbing away, and then when reality hit home and Wales went into the lead, and then the Josh Adams try, which was the complete opposite, I imagine, if you were a Welshman, JB.
Yes.
But it's just fantastic that this sport can do this to us, and that nervous energy I feel so rarely. I feel so rarely. I don't feel it when I'm like.
I don't feel.
I don't feel it when I'm working or anything. That same nervous energy.
Really support any teams anymore, and I include Wales in that. I mean, there's little glimpses of like, yes, I want them to win because I'm Welsh, but I'm more into it because it'll make a good podcast, frankly. I had that same nervousness, which I really want this to go the way that I want it to go. That is, that's how I watch it.
Well, that is the most important thing, isn't it?
It is for me, yes, it is for me.
Well, to add insult to injury, I actually prepared during, just before half time, I prepared my tweet for full time when I would list off a load of Welsh names and then say your boys took a hell of a beating.
Well, I mean, the easiest way to do that, Tim, is to look through BBC Wales and just pick off every B-list celebrity that they get to do one of those cringeworthy, grabbing the badge. The worst one for that. Oh, he didn't do it for rugby actually, but he was at the game and he's not even Welsh. Grant from EastEnders, what's his name?
Ross Kemp.
Kemp. Oh my!
He heard he was going to kick off.
Gonna kick off. Yeah. He did like topless ones on Twitter, didn't he? For
This is everything.
Yeah,
during the World
the
Cup.
World Cup, the football World Cup.
You will never know how much this means to me.
I wonder if he's got the same dealer as Will Greenwood. Same. Yeah,
Tim, you cursed it because JB cursed it last. I said on the podcast last week, JB, you've cursed it by predicting an England win.
Yeah,
Tim, you compounded the curse and guaranteed.
The tweet I prepared was Tom Jones, Gareth Edwards, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Neil Kinnock,
Kinnock, good one.
Max Boyce, JPR Williams, Rob Brydon, Anthony Hopkins.
Hopkins Welsh.
Shirley Bassey, Ryan Giggs, Aled Jones, Big Brother 2's Helen Adams, Shane Howarth. Your boys took a hell of a beat.
Brett Simpkinson.
I never got to send that tweet.
Oh, no.
Maybe in the World Cup.
Yeah.
Maybe.
We'll see.
So, the game.
Well, I think it's important to go back before the game because how did this even happen? That'd be my question.
Well,
because I think they set off too late on Friday. Maybe Gattis was right about that.
I did some work for a betting company, which I got a lot of stick for over this last week.
When did you do that, by the way?
4 weeks ago.
Yeah,
and it sort of aged appropriately. Well, then it came rapidly back into fashion, which was nice.
It did.
So that was good. So I looked at these teams. And I picked me and sorry, I'm just trying to think now. Yeah, so we picked.
So it was you and Ali Stokes, wasn't it?
Me and Ali Stokes. We picked our 15s, combined 15s of the two teams, right? And actually, I think England had a far better 15. I think they've got a better pool of players. And come Saturday morning, I was completely despondent. There's no way Wales can win this. I thought Wales were going to go down to a historic beating at the hands of Eddie Jones's team.
Well, we had a coffee. We had a coffee on Saturday morning, and I was reiterating the point that I made, which was 3 separate points all linked together, which was how Wales could win the game.
Your 3-point plan for Wales's victory was prophetic. Frankly,
it was almost too good.
It was almost. I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if Warren Gatland in his post-match chat had said, "Oh mate, I was listening to Egg Chasers and Full gave a 3-point plan to win." And that was the game plan we put in place. Sorry, New Zealand is one of the hardest accents to do.
Say chops all the time. Chops.
And so I reiterated that on Saturday morning, and you kind of laughed in my face and told me I was insane.
I think your 3-point plan was, just to remind me, because I was watching the game in the second half going, oh my God, Phil, so bloody right. During the game, stop England scoring early. Tick.
Yeah, that was really impressive.
And a really good point of Phil to make. 2, counter that kicking game.
And prevent England from finding grass with the kicking game was the biggest point, but counter it by any means necessary.
Yeah, and then was the third one frustrate? It was some key guys like Sinks and Faz.
It was that combined with force England to give away penalties. And that is an example of one way you can do it, but just be an absolute nuisance around the breakdown, around the ruck area. And Wales did all of those things. And I said,
I would add to that. But the way for Wales winning that I suggested was get to Ben Youngs.
Yeah, he did not have a good game. He really didn't.
And they did a number on him.
Yeah.
And as a result, and I think the two are related, Farrell had a particularly bad game.
He did.
Ben Youngs is like the barometer for England, isn't he?
He is, because he really can go off the boil rapidly.
Yes. I mean, his best games are sensational.
He's sort of like fresh fish. He can be delicious. He can very, very quickly go.
And in Eddie Jones's tenure, when you think of England playing amazingly well, Ireland this season, Australia down under, Ben Youngs was like the man.
He can be very good. He can be really good. I mean, the whole England team can be really good. I'm amazed. If you asked me to predict it again for tomorrow, I'd still predict an England win based on the players available. And I will tell you what, if you swap these two coaches, and I don't think they'll ever swap directly, but I think Gatland will probably be considered for England, as he should be. I think England would absolutely annihilate Wales. Annihilate them. I mean, I thought it was more tactical naivety on Jones's part than anything else. I mean, he should be winning these games. He's had 3 years with these lads. You know, that was a winnable game, and if they want to win a World Cup, they've got some serious issues to answer.
All right, so how much do you think, if we said England lost it, Wales won it, how would we put that on that spectrum?
Yeah.
It's a good question.
I think Wales won it. I think Wales won it with smarter game planning. I'll give you an example. I tell you what I thought was really smart was how Wales attacked the England ruck. And I don't mean at ruck time by making it a mess. I mean around the fringes of it with these little pick and goes. I was watching this thinking, I would never have thought to do that because I'm scared of the English pack and their power. But what that allowed them to do is not get caught by the English line speed because they're so effective at getting on their feet, of, you know, getting the energy, the enthusiasm, the double hits. It's absolutely monstrous. But if you're picking and going around the fringes, you can't do that, and your boys are on the floor. And I thought, that's so clever. Like, that is the small differences that Gatland brings that I don't think Jones can really do.
And it's a really interesting point because Gatland actually referenced that in his post-match press conference. And there's a lot of people flagging Wales to throw it wide early, especially with Anscombe playing, in order to test England where they'd not been tested in the Six Nations so far around the fringes. And Gatland actually referenced and said, we didn't want to do that. We backed ourselves, particularly in the red zone, to use the pick and go game. And it was the 34th phase.
I love it.
That Corey Hill scored what was the decisive try.
British and Irish Lion, Corey Hill.
Thank you. He's his full title.
Yeah.
The Lions pairing at lock, eh?
That was because a lot of people, all three of us included, would not have backed Wales to get the better of England in that pick and go game.
I mean, I don't know how I would go about constructing a game plan to beat England. I would never have thought of that in a million years.
No. And when they did go and play off of Anscombe, you had Tom Curry, Courtney Laws waiting there, Carl Sinclair waiting there to absolutely smash them, and they did.
I tell you what I was a little bit, very wrong about was the effectiveness of the Welsh back row. I thought Wales were going to get hammered here. Obviously, very but Moriarty proved himself to be more than just a flat track bully, because I was certain that's all he was. No, that's completely wrong. I thought Tuperik tends to be a bit too flashy, hangs around in the channels, wants those sort of inside centre, outside centre balls. No, he was brilliant. And Navidi is more than just energy. He's actually a legitimately good player.
He can be a little nuggety, tough. Yeah.
So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting for Wales if they can continue this run of form.
Yeah.
I think we've just again. We'll want to talk about the game, not talk about you, JB, too much. But I will say, I think there's one thing maybe we've learned out of this process is you should stick to your guns, mate. You should. There's a little bit sometimes where you can be like Jeremy Corbyn on Brexit. When you stand for everything, you end up standing for nothing. Because as you mentioned on that Bet 888 video, which you got so much stick for, by the way, from loads of people in the Facebook comments that went with it, who are now got egg on their face, because what you said in that was on the money. What you said on our podcast last week was diametrically opposed to that.
So there are two things going on here. There's climate and there's weather, to quote scientists. I think the long-term trends are pretty much. I've pretty much established what I think about England. I don't really know much about Wales, but I've pretty much established what I know about England. That said, I don't know what they're going to do each and every game. So I still think all those things about Farrell. I think Farrell's if he's not world class, he's very close to being world class. But he has a tiny chink in his armour, and it just seems to get exploited at the biggest of times. He is a far better player all round than Dan Biggar. If we threw them both onto a running track and then made them lift weights and then range of passing and made them play
an
sevens,
NFL combine type setup, yeah.
Dan Biggar's going to get smashed. But whereas Farrell lacks that 5%, Dan Biggar has it in spades. He has 5% in spades, if that makes any sense. Right? So he does a few things.
He's got 110% of 5%.
Yes, exactly right.
I've got a whole shed of spades here.
So he does really
the kind of pendulum really swinging in Wales' favour.
Oh,
he got the 2 assists for the tries as well. The final pass he was playing scrum after the final pass to Cole and the crossfield kick to Josh Adams was his vision.
He just fills me with so much confidence. If he was playing, you just have a feeling he knows what he's doing. I'm sure that's exactly the same with Farrell. But he seemed to... And by the way, this is not a bad Farrell game by any stretch. I thought he did all right, actually.
I think... So, Farrell, if you look at his individual involvements, so he tackled well, he carried pretty well, his passing was good, and his decision of when to kick and it gave so much good territory possession away. And when the most frustrating thing is at half-time, when it didn't work well, the territory and possession that England got was from exploiting turnovers, from forcing mistakes from Wales deep in England's 22 or deep in England's half. And he didn't seem to recognize Eddie Jones and what's the name, Wisemantle and John Mitchell. None of them seemed to recognize that kicking approach wasn't working, and they needed to change it up. And that's why
Gatland listens to you like Eddie Jones needs to. Eddie Jones needs to listen to you.
It's so frustrating watching that first half and thinking, yeah, they're in a good position, but if you keep playing the same way, you are going to come unstuck.
Because they do play so ferociously. So if they're not absolutely battering you by half time, they're well on the front foot. This can happen, and that's all. That's what it was. They ran out of steam.
They did run out of steam.
They didn't use their replacement. They've got an amazing bench, one of the world's best benches, and most of it is sat there until
100%. Oh my God! Look, I've got this written down. It's where is it? I've got this exactly. Oh yeah, I've got I wrote one of the notes I wrote yesterday during the game was Youngs and Farrell having not their best game. No trust in Robson or Ford. What does that tell you? 6 months from a World Cup. 9 months from a World Cup, whatever it is.
I know.
That's a massive concern for me. Like you haven't got any faith in the guy that's backing up your player.
I just think when Eddie Jones looks at his team and how they're playing, I don't think he looks at it and says, right, we need to do something different to what we're doing. I think he looks at his team and thinks...
More of the same, please.
More of the same, but better. Who have I got on my bench that can do what I want, but better?
But that was one of the frustrating things. So the guy that I really would have brought on was Ellis Genge, because England needed more carry. So they were trying to carry hard, and they were getting no change, and they were kicking a hell of a lot, and it was all being returned with interest. They needed, because Billy Vunipola, who carried very well, but he was tiring fast, and he was having to do more work because Laws went off injured. You had no Marrow, you had
Laws gone for the rest of Six Nations.
No Mako, So and Sinclair goes off, so all your carriers disappear. You got no Nathan Hughes on the bench. I was screaming for him to bring Genge on. He brought him on in the 76th or 77th minute.
Stone Genge would have sorted it out.
He wouldn't have solved everything, but it would have just given you another option. It's another option to do what he was doing.
So, he's not going to bring Cipriani back, but Ford isn't a bad player.
No,
Ford is very good.
He's an excellent player.
Ford is a superb player.
I guess the question is he what Jones wants? Is he going to change everything to play the Ford way?
Well, I guess the point being, I'm not saying you have to completely change your system every time you bring George Ford on, but I'd look more at the scrum half one. Ben Youngs was not playing well. To not bring Dan Robson on, what's the point in having a backup 9 that you are not? You have no faith in, or you don't have sufficient faith in.
Yeah,
I mean, okay, so Sale Shocks are very fortunate because they've got 2 world-class 9s, but even they bring off Faf de Klerk. Because they are expected to run so much.
And if you have so little faith in Robson, you've got 2 guys that he does clearly trust in Kerr and Wigglesworth. Why are you not playing them?
Yeah,
because if you're trying to get Robson experience in case you need him in the World Cup, but you're not actually giving him any experience, you're losing on both counts.
I'll tell you a really interesting one. This is aside the point, really, but a really good difference between how Eddie Jones operates in Gatland. How long would Gareth Anscombe and Thomas Francis last under Eddie Jones? 1 training camp?
I'm not sure they'd even make that.
I mean, say it's Gary Graham, right? And he has to take him because of political reasons, and they force him on him. Do you reckon I reckon they literally last 1 training session? And Gatland is stuck with these lads to the point that they're almost good now. Well, I mean, they're really coming on.
Francis
is fine.
He's still not a great player, but he's so much better.
I know.
It's astonishing how much better he is than when for the first few years of him playing.
I completely agree.
He was a punchline Of joke.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
was. I remember once, like from Tirehead, he managed to get like literally over the top. If you like crowd surfing on the opposition scrum, it's like this is a 20-stone man. How do you do that? And now look at him. He's doing fine.
Well, for a moment, let's talk about his opposite number, Kyle Sinclair. Does he deserve the stick that he's got?
No,
absolutely not.
I completely agree. We're all in agreement there.
It's been made a media narrative because it was mentioned by Gatland, and Gatland was fair to mention it.
Yeah.
Absolutely fair, because we have game tape on Sinclair being an idiot. Sinclair had a great game, and there was one bit of handbags 5 minutes before he got taken off, and everyone jumped on,
I know.
Sinclair's lost his rag. Nonsense.
Yeah.
Sinclair never lost his rag. Sinclair was superb. He's one of the best players on the pitch, in my view.
He was immense, right? So it's like look, you don't buy a Rhodesian Ridgeback dog and then get annoyed when it runs around chasing lions. Okay, you buy it for a reason, and you put Sinclair on the pitch for a reason. That's what he's got a certain job. Now I have referenced this for Harlequins actually, rather than England, which is he's a nightmare, Marler's a nightmare, Ward's a nightmare, and maybe playing all three of them is a bit much. But when you play Sinclair, that's what he's there. He's there to be on the edge. Now, this is hypocritical because I say the same thing about Owen Farrell. Owen Farrell's like all tasty, and I think he can turn it down. But there again, he's not a tight head prop either.
Well, I agree with you on Sinclair 100%. I thought he was outstanding. I thought it's been ridiculous, the reaction, and it's unwarranted, and it doesn't make any sense. It was a handbags at best, and it was no more or less than the majority of players on the pitch were doing. And so I thought he was great. And on the Owen Farrell thing, I actually think he didn't have a great game. Was poor.
He made his tackles though.
He did make his tackles.
And I actually thought he was.
I thought he was fine.
As a captain, I think he was. I
think not
he
much
was good again. Just didn't play well.
I think not much can be laid on any individual England player's door here. No. I think it was a team defeat in the true sense of the word.
On Kyle Sinclair, he at one point his stats came up and he was listed as 5'8". Is that right? Is he getting shorter?
He's a huge man.
5'8".
He's not that tall. You see him when he's.
I know that, but I'm sure he's been listed as higher than that before.
Yeah,
I'd say he's 6 foot. Surely.
Is that of international scrummaging?
Maybe. So
compressing your vertebrae.
Wikipedia, which is notoriously inaccurate, lists him as 5'10".
Yeah, so
maybe 5'11".
Goodness me, I thought he'd be bigger than that.
Yeah.
He's such a powerful man. I think he's one of England's key men now, actually.
His handling is also really important.
Hits. I mean, he's got the sort of hitting power, both going forward when he's running with the ball and tackling, that can actually change a game. It can get the momentum on your side.
I think
so. The front row battle, I think, was interesting.
Yeah,
and it was it was an area that Jay, you and I both flagged as
instant death for Wales.
A potential weakness for Wales. Well, your words were Wales are massively outclassed and outgunned in the front row.
100%.
And I backed up and said they lack the explosive power of that England front row. And Tim, you actually said to that point, this is one of those moments where it'd be good to have a marker in the podcast and just say, because that statement could be proven wrong and could be proven quite silly. And it was, because it's scrum time. Wales were never outclassed.
But it's amazing. This is just amazing.
Round the park, and certainly as the game went on, only got weaker, more tired,
and here's
more yards.
Here's what amazes me. I go back to my comment about Thomas Francis. Okay, I mean, just look at the names and the talent available. I would have said that England. I still maintain England should have battered them. They've got so much talent available. Thomas Francis would never have even made the training squad. He wouldn't be an England player. And yet Gatland is somehow doing this. He's magical.
So it's an interesting one because as a Bendar, not everything.
No.
Contractual stability is so important. And Tim, you flagged it last week in the quiz. The number of changes and change combinations when you compare last year's poor Six Nations team to this year's current England team, there's hardly any players. Whereas that Welsh team, there are combinations, players right across the board who have multiple dozens and dozens of appearances at regional level and international level together. And that is something that I would... So, yes, you're right about the talent in the England team. Wales is a very talented team, but they're their stability in that team is so important.
And that's always been said about New Zealand forever, about how the way that they sort of gradually bring players through. There's never a revolution. It's just always a gradual evolution.
And that's one of the key things that Gatland, partly because of his lack of player depth, but he has seemingly consciously done that.
That would be the test. What would Gatland do if he had all of the resources available? Would he chop and change more, or would he actually
keep the combo?
Would he stick? It'd be interesting to know, because he doesn't have a choice with Wales.
Yeah.
Well, another thing Ben Darwin said, not to link everything to Ben Darwin, but we may as well, whilst we're here, is he pointed out examples of where a limited player pool actually meant that you had to go and pick the same team over and over again.
Yeah.
So, what England's perceived strength, maybe its weakness, but I sort of don't buy that.
But I don't think man for man the England players are that much better to count, and certainly to counteract the advantage that stability brings. I think the stability is more of a factor than the play. It's a 15-man game. It's not a game of individuals.
Did Ben Darwin point out that the Welsh team have terrible haircuts as a collective? Well, before that, just to conclude my points on male grooming, Adam Beard not having a beard massively disappoints me.
Yeah. What's the opposite of nominative determinism?
Yeah, what is the opposite of that? The best example of which this week was the new boss at Nintendo being Mr. Doug Bowser.
Doug Bowser is incredible. I was looking for a haircut this week. I came across a barber's called Mr. Beardmore's Barbers.
Oh, really?
It's another good example of nominative determinism.
I'm trying to think. I've heard of that.
It's in the Northern Quarter in Manchester.
Is there a rugby nominative determinism 15 would be good, like Marcello Bosch is one. And wasn't there one that's like a speed, like a
Well, okay, so I know it's not exactly nominative. Say it for me.
Nominative determinism.
But any man named after a battleship playing rugby,
Bismarck.
You're gonna be either in charge of the country or a rugby player.
So for anyone thinking we've gone insane and doesn't know what we're talking about, nominative determinism is the theory that you'll gravitate towards roles, jobs, hobbies, whatever, that are associated with your name.
Well, the person who won the Brits Critics' Choice at the Brit Awards this week is a guy called Sam Fender, which is the name of the guitar brand, and he plays a guitar.
What does Michael Fassbender do? Anyway, let's move on.
Tom Curry, oh my goodness! So I could get the Brokeback Mountain music back out for Tom Curry about him like we used to for Jack Berger.
That was a hell of a performance.
He's a good player, isn't he?
Hell of a performance. He was.
And the two of them,
he was.
Remember that.
So him and Sinclair really stood out for me in that pack, that England performance. I think they were by far the best two players. Both topping the tackle stats.
Courtney Law's not far off.
Courtney Law's was good, but not to the. I don't think to the same level. I mean, Curry was he was everywhere. He was absolutely everywhere against a team that was not having the territory, not having the possession, and what little possession England did have, they kicked away poorly. But yeah, really impressed by him.
And we've said it so many times. 20. And
I know, only 20.
There's two of them. And like Ben
I know.
Curry can't. The gap between Ben and Tom Curry can't be that big.
It's
and in
not.
fact,
Listen to what say. They love Ben Curry.
And when he first came into the England squad, it was Tom Curry only got a cap because Ben Curry got injured.
So I've heard some
against Argentina, wasn't it?
But I've heard
Ben Curry was named to play, got injured. Tom Curry came in and played.
I've heard some really interesting stuff about how Eddie Jones rates the two. And he obviously rates one much higher than the other. I don't need to tell you which one because one got picked. But like he thinks there's a market difference. Now, Sale Sharks do not think that whatsoever. Like they literally have 1A and 1B.
I want to call him Bench Curry. Just have him Bench Curry, Tom Curry, Bench Curry.
Now, man of the match was
Liam Williams.
Given to Liam Williams. I think 100%. I think as well as Curry played, as well as Sinclair played, as well as Navidi and Tipperick, as well as Bigger, who was sensational when he came on. Josh Adams, who finished that try beautifully.
Josh Adams from Worcester. How long would it take Eddie Jones to pick Josh Adams if he was available to England?
It's a great question.
9 years?
But Liam Williams was just absolutely superb. He was so solid, so secure under the high ball, and returned it with interest every time as well.
Yeah. If when they had their little face-to-face handbags again, if Manu Tuolangi had done a punch like he did on Chris Ashton back in the day, I was sort of watching that going, I reckon Liam Williams wouldn't go down either.
No.
He's such a hard man.
Hard. Isn't he? He's seriously hard.
It sort of annoys me, I'm not going to lie. Certain rugby pundits are always talking about, oh, that's disgusting, he struck him with a closed fist, or so on and so forth. But as soon as there's a fight video that goes round, they are the first to share it. And it kind of makes me think, I know we can't go back to the days of fighting. But it wasn't that long ago that Ian Goff was wrestling on the floor with Paul O'Connell. Did you see that one?
Yeah, that video was fantastic. Robert Sidoli, 2004 or 5.
I think we all toe this stupid line of saying, oh, it's awful, oh, the game needs to move on.
You can't do that, oh, it's a bad advert for the game.
Let's just be very clear. We keep talking about appealing to a wider spectrum of the population. Well, let's be honest, we're not really doing that. Viewing figures aren't really going up. Not many people more are going to games. So why don't we just appeal to the people that we've always appealed to and roll back the years and let Robert Sidoli and Paul O'Connell fight again?
Or I think you can appeal to new people by having the odd little dust up in this hugely physical game, and then shaking hands at the end of it and going, "Thank you, sorry, sir."
Yeah, well, hang on a minute. Sir. Hang on a second, right? So if I'm this neutral, which I want to drag into the game to watch, am I going to go away thinking, oh my God, that was a wonderful pass, I'll definitely come watch that again. Oh, I love skills. Because apparently skills are the things that we need. Or am I going to go, that was an amazing fight, I want to see more fighting?
Well, how many have you ever watched ice hockey?
Yep.
Like, have you ever been to an ice hockey game?
No,
never.
But we did watch ice hockey for the whole afternoon in Brooklyn once.
Well, yeah. But so I've been to ice hockey. I've been to ice hockey a few times in America, and I used to watch it a lot in the UK. And the times I've been and not seen a fight, I'm disappointed. I felt shortchanged.
Yeah, I would. Well, do you know we've got a strangely strong ice hockey scene in the Northwest?
Do we?
Yeah, we've got Altrincham. They've got a team. I'm sure we've got Manchester Storm or something?
Manchester Storm used to play at the MEN. Do they still exist?
Maybe. Well, a certain media man who no longer works in rugby union used to work at one of the...
it was always the two big teams in there. It was always Sheffield Steelers and Cardiff Devils.
I'd be up for going to a...
Birmingham Bears.
I'm sure it's not...
Manchester Storm.
Manchester Storm, I'm sure they play in Altrincham.
They play at Planet Ice in Altrincham.
Maybe we should go and watch that.
Yeah. Jump on the tram.
Few beers in Altrincham Market.
Lovely.
Now, maybe I'm slightly different and slightly boring.
No, the fight, I would not have that said about you.
The fight just doesn't interest me. I would much rather, if there's a bit of niggle, I'd much rather a massive, legitimate hit. Like, remember...
Josh Lucy on...
Yes.
Yeah.
Was it Matt Rogers?
Matt Rogers, yeah.
That hit...
do you mean within the context of the game, or you mean off the ball?
No, within the context of the game. So that hit is a perfect example. There was a bit of niggle off the ball. Matt Rogers, I don't know, gave him a wet willy or something like that. Riled up Josh Lucy. Next time the pass comes out, it was a hospital pass slightly above his head, and Josh Lucy just opened his ribcage up. It's absolutely brilliant. I'd much rather see that.
Look, I agree with you, right? But if the thrust of the fight isn't there, you can't understand how people would react. So you sort of take away the ability for the cool reaction. So anyway, look, we're not going to go back to fighting.
You just reminded you. No, we're not going to go back.
Yeah, and there's going to be. You don't play welfare seriously.
But so you want to put people in hospital then? No, God, do one. Right. So, but you just reminded me when you talked about a wet willy. That one of the best bits that a mate of mine sent me a little. I don't know where this is from actually. He didn't say where it's from, but he just sent me a bit of text that came off some website or newspaper or something. An account from Andy Powell of the 2010 England-Wales game. England won this particular game. And he was talking about the banter that used to happen between the two sides during games. And Andy Powell said at Twickenham in 2010, England were wearing their centenary shirts, the first time the two sides had met since the Lions tour. And I was at the bottom of a ruck when my mate Tim Payne, the England prop, was tickling my balls and said, "Hello, Schnell," which was a catchphrase from the South Africa tour. So at the next ruck, I tried to tickle the balls of Simon Shaw, who had also been on the Lions tour. But Dylan Hartley knocked my arm down, saying, "Come on," and I was like, "Come on!" I was only trying to get him back. You couldn't do that nowadays. I would probably be locked up if I did it now. It was just a bit of fun.
It is a bit of fun, and all those boys play with each other. That's what you forget. Andy Powell was at Wasps at the time, so oh well. I hope you're happy, everyone. So, where did everyone watch this game out of interest?
I was at home watching it with young Thomas, who was in his England kit.
Good. Was he? Excellent.
He was in an England kit, and he's already heartbroken at the one game, one loss.
He cried.
It might have been unrelated, but yeah, there were
tears.
Sometimes correlation is causation.
Yes, exactly. There's tantrums.
Yeah, I had a great game day. In fact, I've had a great rugby weekend. There's so much rugby this weekend.
Tell us about Saturday first.
So Saturday, I met my dear friend Alex Ellis, who will be joining us in our veterans rugby.
More on that in a minute.
More on that later. We went to a little place in Didsbury where we treat ourselves to a bite to eat whilst watching the France game. And watching France win, it makes you fall in love with rugby all over again. I mean, they were so French, and
French. Crossed the line 7 times, only score 4 tries.
So they're brilliant.
Disallowed tries from 80 yards.
And they're just brilliant. I don't care what anyone says or how bad they are. They're brilliant. Then we lined up some Negronis. We had
yes, those disgusting drinks.
Yep, a bottle of Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc. Your particular favourite, Phil?
I do quite like a Marlborough.
We had some fig martinis, which were quite nice.
Fig martinis.
Yeah, and then
sounds too sweet for me.
It was very sweet.
I like the driest martini possible.
Disgusting one possible.
Super dry.
Well, strange enough, we finished off with some pudding wines.
Some dessert wines.
Yes, and they are disgusting in their own unique way.
I hate dessert.
It's like drinking syrup.
Yes. What dessert did you have them with?
Well, okay, so here is the here's where it gets very controversial. I think pudding wine is in replacement for, or dessert wine is in replacement for dessert.
In lieu of pudding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas my dear friend Ali said it was to accompany pudding. Now, these are real issues.
This is a big issue.
Yeah. Where do you boys stand on this?
As an alternative.
Agreed.
I wouldn't have both.
No, it'd be ridiculous.
I mean, I would never have a dessert wine. But
I might have a dessert wine with some cheese, mate.
Well, hold on. So, no, I'm not with that because wines get paired.
So this
is true.
Wines get paired. So, like, you wouldn't have something really sugary and then have your Sauvignon Blanc.
No, but you might have a coffee really after it.
I don't think you should have sugary and sugary. And that's what you end up with.
I do hear what you're saying, but I just assumed that it was made to go with it. Like you have your aperitif, you have your wines that go with the course you're having, and then you have your dessert wine with your dessert.
Wine pairing is a bigger rip-off than Valentine's. You know, someone invented Valentine's out of nothing. Wine pairing is one of the largest rip-offs known to man. It makes no difference. It makes no difference. Have the drink that you like, regardless of the colour of your meat.
And if anybody needed any confirmation that rugby is a middle-class sport, just listen to the last few minutes.
Yeah. So I watched a whole France-Scotland game. Just
out of interest.
On my phone.
When you were having these dessert wines, where did you park your Maserati?
I left it at the stoop and walked over.
Free parking at the stoop.
Yeah. It's the only free Maserati parking that I could possibly think of. Let's just talk about France-Scotland in a second. Because I thought France were
an absolute brilliant shambles.
They were amazing.
An omni shambles.
I mean, we talk about coaching and Gatland and so on and so forth, right? I just don't understand how you could possibly coach these boys to do what they do.
Well, as far as I can tell, they're not being coached.
They're amazing.
Well, they're doing it's a bingo ball. What do they call those things?
Yeah. What's the lottery machine?
What's the lottery machine? Whatever.
Guinevere or whatever.
Guinevere. They're using Guinevere to pick the French team. Go on, Roman. Have a go at 10 this week.
So he was very good, I thought.
He was.
The young lads, the 4 young lads, Ramos, Dupont, Pinot, Who'd have thought
Dupont would play brilliantly if given a chance? Everybody but Jacques Brunel is the answer to that.
All 4 of those were brilliant. And they were the difference. They were the spark in this French team. From that I can't remember if it was disallowed or not, but the kick through for Ramos, where he steps Maitland, beats 3 other players, goes through, couple of passes, Dupont almost goes in, and then Entomac does go in.
So
I can't remember if that was disallowed or not, but that try was just, it was all those youngsters playing with kind of without fear, with complete freedom to do what they want
playing
to do.
like their dads did.
Yes.
And in the case of... How weird was it having Untermack and Hastings on the field?
Yeah.
It was weird. It felt like the 90s.
You know, the thing is, it still works. These ways of playing, they still work. England are legitimate in some respects, which are their defence, I think, is like legitimately good. And yet, France, just out of nothing, conjured a try against England. They didn't do the same against Scotland. You know, they can do everything. And I don't know if you coach them in this sort of the Anglo tradition, i.e. you get Gatland over there and you try and make them do things, whether that just ruins everything. I just don't know. Or do they need this hammered out of them? Because when you're in the opposition 22 or you're 5 metres out, you still want to be offloading everything. And by the way, I also thought that Bastro was very good.
I didn't think it was the best game.
It's certainly I thought it was some sort of sign of an impending apocalypse when he did a chip and chase instead of sticking his shoulder down and running into someone.
I mean, how do you prepare week in, week out to face Bastro? Do you put a proper outside centre? Like, what do you do? Because you'll never see it again.
So, the French team, they played some astonishing rugby, both good and bad, but more good than bad. Scotland did not play well, and Scotland...
They were awful.
So Scotland are missing absolutely key players.
The Scotland A team, largely.
Yeah, they're missing key players right across the ball and world class. Finn Russell and Stuart Hogg are absolutely world class players.
I know they're both out for the entire Six Nations. Is that right?
No, well, Finn Russell he'll be going back under return to play head injury protocols, so he might be fit for the next game. But he failed the return to play in 6 days, which is the fastest he could possibly have done it. So he's got another 2 weeks rest now, so he should be okay. But losing Hugh Jones as well is a massive,
huge.
So like probably your 3 best players line for the past couple of years, all gone. And Kinghorn played well, Horn played okay, Hastings played well, but the difference. So from early on in the game, when Scotland had good attacking ball in the France half, Horn was taking it too deep. So Horn was receiving the ball too deep, which meant the French defence, which is historically not particularly well organised, was having so much time. He was taking it deep, and the guys outside him were taking it even deeper, which meant the French defence just had so much time to read it, make a decision, move to where they needed to. So you ended up seeing Scotland kind of being worked slowly backwards, and then the forwards would get further and further away from the ruck, and they'd end up having scrappy rucks, and they'd end up being
futile, wasn't it?
A little kick through, or they wouldn't control it at the back of the ruck, and it was all because they were being worked backwards, not by any kind of exceptional aggressive defence by France, just because everything was a little bit off pace and a little bit further behind. And I thought Hastings, when he came on, he turned that a little bit, and I think Hastings, if Finn Russell were to be out, I think he would probably start the next game, and you'd probably see Horn at 12. But it was just... It was frustrating from a Scottish point of view because they look good. They started off the tournament well. They've got good players. They just don't have the depth in those good players to do it, to mix it on the bigger stage when they're missing guys.
That's a fantastic summary of it.
Tim, would you like to read a message from our partners?
I certainly would, JB. It's funny you mentioned that. Well, as you know, one of the reasons there's an extra edge to this Six Nations is it's a World Cup year. Did you know, gents? I mean, obviously you know who the official logistics partner is for the Rugby World Cup 2019 in Japan.
The people that make everything happen by delivering things on time and precisely.
The company without which the Rugby World Cup in Japan 2019 just would not happen.
Couldn't get there.
DHL. Obviously, you knew that.
I did.
They've teamed up with BT Sport, the fine purveyors of Premiership and European Cup rugby, to offer one lucky young rugby player and a chaperone. So basically, to offer you if you have a young person in your life or one that you can get hold of at short notice.
But legitimately.
Yeah.
Is it wrong that I've entered Phil into this?
the opportunity, the opportunity of a lifetime. So get this, a trip to Japan to deliver the match ball for the England v France Pool C match on the 12th of October. Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Now, you just have to have...
That is incredible.
You have to have a son or daughter or nephew, neighbour's kid that you can borrow, whatever.
Borrow for an extended period of time to take abroad.
Yeah.
You absolutely prove that this is your child, sir.
Yeah. All right, let's say son or daughter. If you've got a son or daughter, as I do, aged between 8 and 15, I'm going to be going and taking mine out to a paddock somewhere until we win this. Just have to send a photo or a video showing a great piece of skill or a memorable moment connected to rugby and go to dhl.com/ that's DHL, the letters dhl.com/BT Rugby, and upload it with some details about the child you're nominating. 2 finalists have been selected, but there is another opportunity for 2 more, but it has to be done before Sunday, the 3rd of March. If you want to be in with a chance to win, submit your hashtag DHL Rugby moment before midnight, Sunday, the 3rd of March, if you want to get that amazing trip of a lifetime to Japan and see your son or daughter handing the match ball to, well, who will it be to? Owen Farrell.
That is a phenomenal prize.
Who? Marcus Smith.
God, why did I not have a child 8 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, and then obviously we'll watch BT Sport Rugby tonight, as I'm sure you do, to see the winner being announced, maybe you. More details, dhl.com/BT Rugby. Yes. The veterans rugby you touched on. Let's talk about that, because that's the other thing. I think this could be. I think we should champion this and find a way to champion this becoming a thing. Friday night social rugby.
Yeah, Friday night social rugby. So it's not something I've ever considered. I still play every Saturday. I still still want to play it every Saturday. But Broughton Park, my old club, organised a match against Wythenshawe, who are a relatively new club around the northwest, and it's Friday night, which worked really well because there's a lot of guys who I used to play rugby with. For whatever reason, it's usually kids, actually. It's basically, as someone called it, guilt-free rugby. That's a very good way to put it. Because you can, what you do on Friday night at 7, probably nothing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was great.
It was. So the concept is there are a lot of guys who have stopped or can no longer commit regularly to rugby. And the idea is that once a month or once a quarter or however you organise it, one club in a local area hosts, maybe it could be one match against one team, or it could be several teams playing 20-minute matches in a round-robin sort of format, under light, jugs of beer afterwards.
It was tremendous fun.
It was, and I just think it's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
And as someone whose weekends are taken up, I mean, obviously I've still got it in me to play an amazing level.
Well, I thought it was more about who was putting you into space rather than anything else there, Tim.
Yeah.
So were you the Danny Cipriani pulling the strings, JB?
Yeah, I've certainly got a very similar short passing game to his. I don't have the expansive range.
Do you know, genuinely, I surprise myself at how good my offloading still is. But
nothing about how good I was surprised me.
But it was fantastic, and I think we're gonna, over the course of the podcast to come, I think we're gonna try and see what we can do as a podcast to try and get other clubs on board with this Friday night thing. See who we can get involved to try and help make it happen.
It's great fun. Yeah, if you're in the Northwest and you sort of age, you want a few beers, just get in contact. I'm sure we can sort out some sort of game.
Yeah, but I think it's it should be a movement, because again for the grass days are an important day. Sundays are an important day for minis. If Friday night a rugby club locally could be a destination once a month,
yeah, I think
loads
what really
of beers,
made it
great.
though, I mean, you've got the lights, a nice stadium. The weather was perfect for it.
Oh, it was great.
Like, imagine if that was sideways rain. I'm not showing up. I'm not going. But it wasn't. It was absolutely idyllic for rugby. I was going to mention something else. Oh yeah, I was going to say we could maybe put out an Egg Chasers team. This is not an advert, right? But we have actually got a club shop opening next week or the week after, which we'll tell you about next week.
Watch this space.
But yeah, we might even be able to kit out a team in Egg Chasers stash, which looks shockingly like Northampton stash.
Beautiful kit, though.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Beautiful
Great colour palette.
On the France dash, some people have criticised that kit. I bloody love both of them, home and away. I love it. I like the collar even.
It's nice, but it's not all-time great French dash.
I'll go with you on that.
I had such a soft spot for the recent Adidas French stuff, although the blue was not quite the right blue.
No, they've got the right blue this time.
They have got the right blue. I do quite like the tricolore detail on it. Yeah,
I like it.
not bad.
No, sorry. I'm watching this on YouTube.
You watching yourself while you're talking about yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Podception.
Italy, Ireland.
Yes.
Now, this has to be the worst performance I've ever seen that has achieved an away point bonus win. The Ireland performance was so far removed from their recent high standards.
Yeah.
The last couple of years, like maybe last 4 or 5 years of high standards.
Yeah, so far removed, and this is maybe one point, so familiar for Ireland fans to be thinking a year out from a World Cup. Oh, have we already peaked?
Yes.
It's months out from a World Cup going, oh, did we just peak a little earlier?
I love the conversations around this. I love the conversations how we were all so certain that the only model in the world that could possibly produce a rugby team was the Irish provincial model. That was it. Nothing else came close until the English absolutely slammed them in Dublin, in which case we should all have clubs now. They should all like
and actually, now Wales did a job on England. We should all have clubs that are about
bankrupt.
to go out of business.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
rubbish domestically.
That's the only way that you create the hunger.
And with loads of politics and fighting.
Loads of infighting between them.
Yeah, so...
So on that point, and it's a wider point, not specifically about this game, but this weekend and this Six Nations Championship, if any long-term thing is proved between the top teams, certainly the Northern Hemisphere top teams, is very, very small. And I think the three better, Ireland, England, Wales, I think any one of those three can beat any of the other can beat the other by 2 or 3 scores on their day. If you get the tactics right, if you get the execution right, if you get everyone on their mettle, then any one of them can win. There are no four.
Yeah, those top 3. But I still really rate.
What I have with France is, in any game, I believe they can do it. They can also, in any game, lose by 40 points exactly as they did to England.
And exactly like
any given game.
In the World Cup against New Zealand.
You wouldn't be surprised if they did a job on England in the World Cup in that Pool C match.
Yeah.
Or you wouldn't be surprised if they went into Argentina.
Yeah. Neither of those things would surprise me.
I would be terrified of France. I'd be absolutely terrified.
And if France won every game in their pool, you guarantee whoever they're playing, they'll end up losing.
Yeah.
The only thing you can guarantee is the consistency of their inconsistency.
Unless they're playing New Zealand, then they'll somehow pull a win out of their arse.
But hang on a minute. They've made the final twice, haven't they?
Yeah. 87.
Okay. 87.
Well, then 3 times.
3 times.
2011.
87, 2011.
And they beat the All Blacks in...
Huh?
They beat the All Blacks in...
No.
Semi?
2 finals. 2 finals.
Because in the quarter they beat them and then lost to England in the semi.
Ah, righto.
That was England. That was 2011.
Oh, no,
that was 2007.
No, 2007. England, South Africa.
No, so what was the comeback one? They sort of came back. South Africa.
That was against New Zealand in the one before. Was that 99?
What was 99 played?
Was 99?
99 was in
Wales.
Yeah, no,
Wales.
99 wasn't the Sautoir 40-odd tackle.
No, that was 2007.
Yeah.
But that also occurred in Wales.
No, the 99 was the Christophe Dominici era where they had the massive comeback against New Zealand.
Yes, they went to the final against someone there, didn't they?
Australia won it in 99.
Against... I'm sure it's France. I'm sure it is. That was the semi. Yes, it definitely was. Because France would have won that. They'd have been the World Cup champions in football and in
the semi-final, and
it was in 99.
France.
So France were finalists in 99.
3-time finalists.
Yeah. So they are dangerous. I wouldn't. They've got nothing worse than bad teams with good players. Hear me now, believe me later. The worst combination you ever want.
Well, Here's one question then. Sorry, I'm jumping sideways slightly, but what do you think of... Right, jumping back to the Principality Stadium, but nothing to do with on the field.
Okay.
The commentary team came in for quite a lot of stick when I was hanging around in that cesspit on Twitter.
Oh God, what were you doing there?
Tim.
I was so drunk by that time, and also I was in the pub watching it, so I had no idea what... The only bit of commentary I've seen is the quite outstanding Sonia McLaughlin bit with Liam Williams.
So he ended up doing a post-match interview after all, didn't he?
I've seen a post-match interview with him.
Yes.
With her and him.
Yes. I just think maybe it wasn't done live. I don't know.
Okay.
So the clip you're seeing is, and it's quite unfortunate, and being in the position of doing interviews myself, I don't think Sonia McLaughlin will have realised she was live.
Right. So, you know...
Because I think she was trying to talk to her director or producer.
You're absolutely right, okay. But... And I do appreciate that, and I think she's good at her job. Blah blah blah.
If you haven't seen it, she's saying he's not doing an interview. He's not doing an interview at the camera.
He's not doing
one.
So there's only. I'm not. The job is difficult, and to be really good at it, you've got to be actually really, really good, as you are, Tim. There's only a few things that you need to know. One is how to ask a question and remember names. And the other one is to know if you are or are not on TV. It's sort of like an electrician not understanding if the electric is on or off. You know, it's basic to what you're doing.
Sometimes yes, that's in your control. Sometimes that's controlled by other people as to whether you know or not.
Yeah, I mean, it could be mightily unfortunate. Yeah. But I would imagine if it was that difficult, we'd have loads of examples of presenters saying all sorts of things on TV, not knowing that they were on air. So it's unfortunate for it because, you know, it's quite a funny clip.
But, well, yes, and it can happen to anyone. And you know, I've accidentally...
Scout.
You know, and you feel like you want the earth to swallow you when you do it. Sometimes the worst one is wrong. You don't realise you said something wrong in your head. You said it right.
Yeah.
Just continue regardless. That's what I would do. Double down. Double down.
Yeah.
Thank you, Skulk Brits. Order him off.
But has a stutter. And, you know, and as someone who's with that yourself, JB.
It'd be terrifying.
You understand how like that would be. Yeah. Like, Kelly Brown has dealt with that as well.
Oh yeah, I mean his was particularly bad. Yeah, mine used to be horrific. It's not that bad anymore, but it does still exist.
I can testify as the person who used to edit the podcast when we used to have to edit them. Yeah, it was, and it's actually one of the things that, it sounds patronising to say, one of the things I'm actually most proud of about the podcast is actually where you've come from and where you are.
Fear in life would have been talking on national radio. I talk on national radio fairly frequently now. Yeah. You know, but I can tell you now, he would be terrified. Like I would not. I used to never want to speak in front of a room. I'd never ask a question in a room. I wouldn't even reverse the charges on a phone because I didn't want to speak to the operator because of my stutter. So I can really understand that if he says no, he says no, and you know he's either going to walk away or he's going to have to deal with it some other way. I did think it was weird that the captain didn't intervene in some way. So that's a perfect role, isn't it, for a captain to do that interview? Because you know Liam Williams at some point is going to get man of the match because he's ace, and you should have a contingency plan for this.
Yeah,
so, you know, like right. When you interview, who did you do?
I just remembered. This. That's the reason I'm laughing, is because I just remembered the same thing. Yeah. So I was chatting to a Toulon player, man of the match, that was a Georgian that spoke very little English. I don't think it was Gorgodza, but anyway, and Lee Halfpenny was there doing the interview with him, and I was trying to ask a question to the Georgian who didn't understand. So I put the microphone to Lee Halfpenny as if to say, go on, just answer it instead, because it was a generic question, and Lee Halfpenny tried to then repeated.
Oh, is that what you...
Lee Halfpenny then repeated the question.
I thought you would do it
in English, but slower.
No, yeah, he repeated the question. Lee Halfpenny was trying to help me out. But actually, I just meant, when I put the microphone to him and just sort of smiled and went, no worries, don't worry, and held it to Lee, I meant for Lee Halfpenny to answer the question. Lee Halfpenny tried to explain in broken, slow English what a question I just asked.
Lee, how's your Georgian? I thought he did it so Lee would speak French to him.
Was that when so Steve McLaren and Joey Barton have both developed like a French or Dutch accent when they've been working abroad? Was Lee trying to do it like basically speak English with a slight French twang?
Yeah. So live TV, sometimes there's no hiding place. But
yes. What did you think of the analysis then? What do you think of the TV crews?
That was a question I asked. So Jonathan Davis and Brian Moore, I think, basically got quite a lot of stick. I don't know if this is just the Twitter cesspit, or I don't know what you actually felt about it. I can understand some of the criticism.
Well, look, I didn't see it, but I can go off past performances of both of them. Brian Moore in particular, I don't know why I need to. But I guess the BBC stuck in its ways. They're not rugby experts by any stretch. Despite the good work of some of the reporters, their actual coverage, I mean, particularly on the Wales team, I mean, it's so BBC Wales. In fact, all the Welsh outlets are absolutely dreadful. And I just think, they've got an established team. They probably know how to work. They've probably got work together. They've probably got his mobile phone number easily to hand. And why bother mixing it up and trying to find new talent? They've got these guys who've been doing it for 20 years.
Because...
Well, no, I know why you should do it, but why would they? Because,
I see what you're saying.
It's not like they're going to lose sponsorship.
Well, yeah. And I think, rather than being critical of Brian Moore, I would actually say, what a great crack you've added it. And that's brilliant.
Blue Factory.
It's time to move this on. And in guys like Sam Warburton, they have sat there doing the bits at half-time and the bit before the game, and he's great at that.
Yeah.
But actually, get him in the bloody commentary box. He's so good.
He's really good. And he's so fresh and relevant.
I mean, I just can't understand what insight that these older lads are bringing now from when they played in the 70s or whatever.
Well, and this is what I mean. Right, I understand there's things that relate and things that... So I'm not writing off playing international rugby, playing at World Cups, playing in a World Cup final or whatever, but he's never played professional rugby.
Yeah, he's never played professional rugby. It's not an age thing by any stretch.
Not
I mean,
at all.
if you're still in the game, someone like Alan Solomons, for instance, would be a great guy to have in because he's been coaching all this time. He knows in professional rugby inside out. These other blokes just don't, and that's just how it is. An interesting point occurred when me and Phil went for a beer with Rob Webber. And he was saying, a load of boys would love to do this. And BT Sport are very good at it. They always are trialling out new people. I don't know whether that is just because they want a new voice or they're looking for potential people to come in the future, but they've always got a player on the sideline. They had Van Veltz today for Worcester.
But Ed Slater was in commentary and he's great.
Yeah. So
there's a lot, and rugby's so lucky to have so many articulate, analytical, entertaining minds to pick.
Yeah, and he was saying we'd love to do it, but frankly, these lads just they aren't going anywhere. They've been commentating for been pundits for so long. I think I would roll the dice a bit, but look at the difference between the commercial stations, i.e. ITV, and the standard of the standards that they set there, and look at what the BBC do, and you know why it is. There's no point in rehashing that. We know why they do what they do.
So part of me does like the tradition of listening to Jiffy or
Numbers,
Brian Moore.
Composure, it's on the right, it's on.
Like Jiffy let out this high-pitched squeal when I think it was the Josh Adams try.
It's on if they go right, it's on.
So part of me quite enjoys it because it's such a tradition, and part of me thinks, I mean, one of the best guys in BBC, Chris Jones, I think is really, really good.
Yeah.
I think he's very intelligent. He understands, he's not played at the highest level, but he understands rugby really, really well. The ins and outs of everything. And
he can't do a great montage voice, though, can he?
not quite the same. But I'd like to see him more. And Sam Warburton and Martin Williams, I think, are really, really good as well. I think they're superb.
Sam Warburton's a blooming revelation.
Yeah.
I think he's so good. To the point where,
I mean, really? I mean, how much of a revelation can a Lions captain, a Wales captain...
What's weird is you have a watch. Whenever Sam Warburton speaks, the next person that speaks, and it was Martin Williams did it a few times, he went, I agree with Sam. Everyone said, I agree with Sam.
Who's going to put the hand up and go, That's rubbish, Sam. What are you talking about?
It was like David Cameron circa 2009. I agree with Nick.
Yeah, it'd be quite a brave pundit. Say, what?
But it is the contrast between him and, say, Guska or Martin Johnson or Jiffy or Brian Moore. The contrast is so stark.
Yeah, although I said everything I've just said, I actually still really like listening to Jonathan Davis. I love the fact that he played rugby league and rugby union. But who would do that now? Who was the rugby league, rugby union crossover guy?
Andy Powell.
Andy Powell, yeah.
Gareth Thomas.
Gareth Thomas.
Ben Teal.
Ben Teal. Big Sam, that's who I want.
But like, look at Flats, for example. There's a great example. No one in like casual rugby fans knew who he was.
And now whole sections of stadiums sing for him.
Yeah, exactly. But why? Why? Because he's blooming good, and he's 8 caps for England, something like that. So it's like his international record is not why he gets
one in California. Churchill Cup.
Well, there you go. Yeah. So, but he's done as well as he has because he's entertaining, really informed.
Well, the other side of that, right, is he would finish a game of rugby and everyone goes for a beer and he bashes out 600 words for Bath Chronicle. You know, you've got to work, and that's the other thing. With I'm just saying, like how he got there is hard work.
Well,
you've got to work really hard at it.
I'm sure, and I never take for granted being in the fortunate position I've been in, but you know what? If anyone, and I've had people say to me, "Oh God, you're lucky, don't we?" Well, actually, started a podcast when no one did a podcast, and we did it every single Sunday. Even on, I've told people a few times. Sometimes Phil would be working away in London and get a train back from London just to do a podcast, and then he'd go back and like we'd finish at 11 o'clock at night, and he'd be on a 5 a.m. train back to London on a Monday morning.
We've done a 3 a.m. podcast to make sure it's like it's like the film's social media. What's it called? The Facebook one. And he's like, the servers never go down. No, the servers don't go down. It comes out on a Sunday, and that will be that.
Yeah, some of the times we've done it. Most of the times when we've done it at 3 a.m. is because we've been out partying all weekend.
Yeah. I mean, that has happened too.
But think how hard you've got to work after partying all weekend in Budapest or Barcelona.
So hard.
To then watch 5 or 6 games of rugby to digest all that content.
And sometimes we have to. Sometimes, right? We have to watch rugby whilst on holiday.
Absolutely, it's work, Jay.
Yeah, we've had to interrupt drinking our beer to watch rugby.
And JB, you've done a podcast from a hospital bed.
I have.
After being impaled on a tree.
I did last year from a hospital bed.
You did?
When I had meningitis.
Unreal. So you're right about, and that's why I'm sure if Rob Webber wants it, he'll go and get it. He will get it, or whoever.
Yes.
But the point is, there is talent out there, and
I think Slater's really, really good.
Slater was good.
Roll the dice every now and again. You don't just have to have Brian Moore or Jiffy because they've always been there.
Yes.
There are other guys.
We do need to say some more things about Ireland. Because all we said is they're not very good.
You're right.
Well, they didn't play well at all. They got the bonus point win, which is what they needed. It was the absolute minimum they had to do. It was weird. This was a weird game. I don't know if either of you watched it in that much depth.
I haven't watched it at all, to be honest. I was.
So the more clinical team was Italy. So Ireland, in that first, Ireland scored 2 tries in each half, and they just kind of bludgeoned their way over by playing incredibly boring one-out rugby. Really,
that's odd.
Italy, their 2 tries that they scored in the first half were kind of half chances that they finished. But they never ever got any more half chances, partly because Ireland ultimately ended up controlling the game, but partly because, and if I was an Italy fan or coach, I would be frustrated at the ref because I feel there were some odd decisions at ruck time and at driving maul time that just stopped Italy getting a foothold in the game. So, well done, Ireland. They did enough, but it was not a vintage performance at all. It was actually reminiscent of the Wales performance against Italy a couple of weeks ago, which was just do enough, just get through it, but don't be the best team and don't kind of burn your bridges for the bigger games. I think Ireland missed. So Bundyaki went off relatively early.
Yeah,
they missed CJ Stander, and they missed. a couple of big ball carriers. Those two in particular, but just someone to get them over the gain line repeatedly.
Yeah, I thought Italy were good, but ultimately disappointing. You felt you knew where this was going. They need a kicker. I mean, that's undeniable. They left 7 points on out on the field by half time. They missed the last kick of the game, which would give them a losing bonus point, which looks like it might just be inconsequential anyway now.
It probably will be. But
on the plus side, they are starting to develop players who are pretty good. Esposito.
And
I love that guy.
Padovani, the other winger, who is very good. It sounds a bit patronising, but Italy did not play that badly. They just didn't have enough. They couldn't get that spark that caused those 2 tries. They couldn't reignite it enough times, which admittedly they're playing against an island team that does the basics very, very well, and they had some dubious refereeing decisions.
Do England play Italy next?
Yes.
Yeah, and Scotland last, both at Twickenham. Italy are in for an absolute beatdown.
They could well be. Well, they've never beaten England, have they? And I don't like the fact that it's the last game of the tournament because England put out their strongest side. Then you don't finish
second last game.
Oh, sorry, right. I do like that.
Super Saturday is Scotland.
Scotland. So actually, I do like it then. So I hope England put out a weakened team. I'd love to see Italy do England. And just one game. Just win one game.
I'd love Italy to win one game. I hope it's not against England. I'd like to see them beat France.
France, the last game, the Garibaldi Cup.
I really thought that they could beat
the Biscuit Cup.
I thought they could beat Wales, but I was certain that they could.
Well, you predicted.
Yeah.
It actually means I was looking back of your predictions for England and Wales. Not one of them has come off yet.
No.
You've correctly or incorrectly predicted every single England and Wales fixture. 6 out of 6 so far.
Perfect.
I've decided there's one reason why I 100% want Italy to always be in the Six Nations.
Because we can go to Rome. It's a great time to go drinking.
Rome's an amazing city, and their police escorts for the island bus. Oh my word, that's hilarious! That video.
That is incredible.
An absolute lunatic in a Fiat Panda police car.
What is he doing? There's no need to do. What is he or she doing? I should say. There's no need to do what they did.
There's more than 2 genders, mate.
He, she,
they, Ziza.
Yeah, thank you.
MX.
They, them.
Yes.
I want them to stay there because the police are cool, but even better than that, I love going there for a drink. That's pretty much the long and short of it.
Absolutely.
Shall we wrap this up then and do our domestic podcast?
Let's do it.
Yes.
Obviously, tomorrow night we'll be doing our domestic podcast.
Oh yeah, tomorrow of course.
Monday night.
Yeah. Hit subscribe in that feed wherever you're listening, and you'll get the domestic podcast where we're going to talk about the domestic rugby Pro 14 Premiership. We're also going to have a real little sniff around in the Manu Tuolangi Trough. So join us for that. In the meantime, find Rugby's Nostradamus at Jay Beardmore. I'm Matt Cocker. We're at Rugby Podcast. Go and watch the video on YouTube and subscribe and all the rest of it there, and let the boys play.
Yeah, so let the boys play. Okay, so I am going to leave the Mevo on.
Oh, I reckon separate them.
Separate them? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.